Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. We are in the NATO studios in Brussels for the Frans van Kat interview. And it's our pleasure to welcome Anders Fogh Rasmussen. Hello, you're the Secretary General of NATO. You were the Prime Minister of Denmark, and since 2009 you've been directing the alliance going to the Lisbon summit, and you intend to bring together 50 heads of state and governments and develop a new strategic concept. Now, why do we need a new strategic concept?
The aim of that new strategic concept is to present and lay down the key tasks within the alliance, within NATO. Now, 10 years ago, we introduced that concept, and as you know, the world we live in has changed since then, over the last 10 years. The fact is that we need to modernize, we need to reform the alliance and to make sure that the alliance tunes into the new threats such as terrorism, such as missile attacks, cyber attacks as well. We, therefore, will take major decisions to develop our capabilities to fend off those attacks.
Clearly, an important point for NATO is Afghanistan. Currently, there are some 150,000 troops in the International Security Assistance Force, 48 different countries, 28 members of NATO, and you've announced 2014 as the date for full withdrawal. Now, do you believe in that? Do you think that everything will be completed in 2014?
That is our aim. That's our objective, but it's an aim that is, I believe, realistic. Now, at the highest level, we will be announcing a transition, a gradual transition period, under the remit, of course, and empowering the Afghans themselves with effect from 2011. And I hope that that process will supplement, will be ended by the end of 2014. Of course, we need to make sure that the Afghans themselves are able to take on that responsibility, and therefore we need to train them, to train Afghan soldiers and political officers, and to tighten our training mission in Afghanistan.
But at the same time, you advocate the policy of reaching out that Hamid Karzai would like as well towards Taliban that we can't really say are moderate, but would be susceptible to crossing over. In fact, would not take up arms any longer. Now, is this strategy, first of all, effective? And then secondly, would you say this strategy is desirable? Would we not lose control to a certain extent or lose sight of Afghanistan's future?
Well, that process of reconciliation is necessary to make sure to find a solution, a long-term solution on the conflict in Afghanistan. However, only on certain terms, namely that the process must be under the leadership of the Afghans themselves, firstly, and secondly, that this is a prerequisite, and must be, whereby the groups involved and who are engaged in that process do uphold the Afghan constitution and human rights, as well as the rights of women. If I may add a point, we will not allow a compromise on the principles.
Now, concretely, the Lisbon summit will also launch the creation of the anti-missile shield that is to protect the entire territory covered by the NATO alliance. France and the UK, nuclear powers. Now, they don't want to see the nuclear weapons policies questioned. They don't want this shield to be a substitute, but they want it to be complementary to nuclear deterrent.
Personally, I believe that anti-missile defense will be an adjunct to the deterrent, to the nuclear deterrent.
Now, these are still rights then for France and the UK, though. Will you not find a compromise?
Yes, we have had a discussion on that subject. I believe that we will agree, and we will find a trade-off based on two pillars. First of all, we are determined to lay down the conditions then in a nuclear-free weapon world. Secondly, we will underscore the fact that as long as necessary, there will be nuclear weapons in the world. The alliance will remain an alliance that is a nuclear alliance. And a deterrent, a nuclear deterrent remains a key factor in our strategy.
Now, the determination to deploy the anti-missile shield was pushed by the Americans, and it initially worried the Russians. Now, Medvedev will be present at the Lisbon summit, and you wanted him to be included in the process of establishing the missile shield. Now, to what extent and at what price?
We will invite Russia to cooperate with us on defense, on anti-missile defense. Now, the aim there is to make anti-missile defense more effective and to enlarge the cover, the anti-missile defense cover that we have. Now, I am planning two separate systems, a Russian system and a NATO system, but they need to communicate. They need to share information with a view to making the system all the more effective.
But what type of information?
Well, information on missiles.
Right, okay. Now, the question of price comes up as well. Do we not have two different stances, perhaps more flexible for Georgia regarding the Russians, because we want them to be included?
We need to remain firm as regards Georgia. We need to observe and uphold Georgian sovereignty, its territorial integrity of that country.
Now, you say that the shield is not aimed at the Russians. People think Iran, people are saying Iran, but that's a problem for some of the members of NATO, such as Turkey. To name Iran, perhaps they're not the best enemy to be designated.
There are more than 30 countries in the world today who have or who want to have and obtain missile technology. And that's why, specifically, we will not mention any one country in particular. However, we will protect ourselves against any threats, wherever they may arise.
You think then that concerning the anti-missile shield and Russian relations, do you think that the Lisbon summit will be concrete, will give you concrete results?
I am trustful that we will strike an agreement on anti-missile defense.
You think then that you will come up with the true measures, a true program, a real progress?
Definitely. We will decide to develop an anti-missile defense system within NATO.
Okay, in fact, you reduced the NATO troops by half the headcount in Kosovo, over 5,000 men. Now, so you think then that there's no longer any instability there? How do you judge the situation in Kosovo, for instance, regarding Serbia?
The situation, the security situation in Kosovo is and will improving and will improve, and that's why we have decided to lower the number of international troops based there. I'm trustful that the situation will remain stable in that country.
What's your message then for Lisbon? What would make the summit successful for you? What are your criteria then for success?
Certainly, to succeed, we will need to take key decisions as regards the new strategic concept, the framework of it, and as regards renewing our alliance within it. We need to take decisions on anti-missile defense. We need to announce a transition period in Afghanistan and improve relations between NATO and Russia.
And clearly you expect to succeed. We hear that. Anders Fogh Rasmussen, thank you for being our guest on the France 24 interview. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more news.